Hi friends, this is Simone. Today I am creating a purple boy layout for the Shimmerz Education Team, and I would love for you to come along with me. So I picked the photos of my son, and the starting point for this layout was actually the wood veneer that I just briefly showed you. It said details, and that is when I had the idea to make a back to school layout that had something to do with details. I then looked for photos of my son and my oldest son, just because I knew I have back to school photos of each of my sons, but I thought the details would be really fun to go along with 8th grade details. It's his last year of middle school, and yeah, so I picked the photos, and he wore this really Bordeaux colored sweater on the first day of school, and that is actually what dictated the colors of the layout. I received my, what was that, August Cocoa Daisy kits. I always confuse the months. So it's very purplish and blue, and there were so many beautiful embellishments included in the kit. I'm not really using very many of the kit, but that is probably what dictated the colors or the color scheme. I showed you the stamp set that was included, and I was thinking of using maybe the Be the Star of Your Story stamp, but then actually I'm going to use the stars and texture stamps that are included in the kit, or in the stamp set, not kit. So yeah, I think my color choices for this layout were determined by the burgundy color of the sweater and then the colors that came in the Cocoa Daisy kit. This is the papers that I chose. There was this purple paper, and I just loved it, and I loved how it looked with the photos, and so that's why I picked only 3 Shimmerz colors. I picked 2 Vibez. It's Vibez Blue Jeans and Vibez Grape Soda, and then 1 Coloringz, which is Pink Stilettos. And yes, these are the colors that I am going to use on my oldest son's, who is almost 14's layout, and I think he already looked at it and he likes it. So there is nothing bad about using non-male colors on spreads for your sons, your husband. I think a layout looks great when it just is cohesive and things go well together. And so when you're using colored photos, picking color schemes for the rest of your layout that come from the photo will definitely work. And so this actually looks like it's supposed to be. And who cares who's on the photo? It's a nice layout, and that's it. What I was been doing here since I went on this little teeny tiny create in colors that you love, road rage, verbal rage. I went through all the die cuts, and that took a lot of time. And since I didn't really use that very many die cuts, I cut that out of the video. I just looked what would work with my son, with the theme of the layout. Sometimes I don't have a hard time using completely off-topic die cuts on a layout, but sometimes I do, and especially when I don't use that very many die cuts, then it feels like they have to match the topic of the layout closely. And then I added colors, and I added even more colors. My layout, my gesso wasn't dry yet, so this looks like a little bit muted, and funnily, enough, I recorded the things when I was off camera because I completely switched. I thought I was recording when I didn't record, so you weren't able to see me fill in the rest of the colors. But I just I checked back with my photos. I found that I was missing color, and so I splotched on some more color, and then I used my heat gun to dry it. I also didn't matte my photos. I kind of liked the photos popping off the mixed media, that the color a lot more than having the photos this far away from the colors that I had on the paper, which is not really bad. I mean, you're taking so much time, or I was making this colorful and beautiful background, and then I'm using paper and stuff to cover it up. You can go that route, but for this layout, it just didn't feel right, and so I didn't go that way. I just layered one of the mats that I actually thought were one of the papers that was going to be a mat, and layered it as a third element behind the two photos. It kind of bridged the gap when there were harsh edges in between when I layered them, and I staggered them a little, and that's what helped bridge this gap, and also gave a little base for some labels and embellishments later on. So I picked my archival ink stamp pads, and I picked almost the same colors, and I'm testing the inks to see if the colors match the colors on the paper in this mixed media notebook from Canson. I have that by my side all the time, and I'm testing colors in there. And so I picked a blue, a purple, and a pink, and decided I would stamp around where my main elements are. I marked, as you saw me before, I marked the edges of the photo layers with pencil, and so I knew roughly where my elements, my stamping elements should go, to see so that it looks haphazard without being. They look like they were popping out behind the photos and not floating somewhere in midair. Maybe that's because I've been watching Jen Scow for such a long time, but I'm a big fan of nestling things and attaching elements, and by having stamps coming out behind from a photo, that feels like they are attached. Now I'm looking through all of my stamps, and I was sure when I picked out all of the things that I was going to use. I picked the big bold stamp set from Studio Calico, but I quickly realized that the Details wood veneer, which I actually don't really know where it's from. It might be from Felicity Jane or Citrus Twist, but it could also be from Coco Daisy. I'm really not sure. It's a very intricate wood veneer, and I lost the dot on the eye, and I'm not really sure if it bothers me or not. It didn't bother me when I created the layout, but now that it's right next to me, it kind of does. So I need to find a way to maybe add a dot on the eye. But then when I look at it right now, since there is 8th grade right on top of it, it doesn't. So the big bold stamp alpha stamp set didn't really go. And I stamped out 8th grade on the scrap piece of paper there, and then just looked, before I started stamping on the background, I looked if it would fit, and it did, and so I stamped it there. I also tried another stamp set, but it was too big, and so I decided on this. This is right now currently my favorite stamp set. It's from Feed Your Craft, and it's the narrow alpha stamp set. And then on a whim, I decided to take off there's the die cut that I had there that I thought I was going to use was the days of the week. But I really like the skinny, longer die cut with a star. It ties into the background. There are stars in the background. And then the saying says, shoot for the moon, because something. You probably know the saying. I don't remember. It's like even if you don't reach the moon, you will still end up in the stars, and it both is really great. So I really liked that in connection with school layout, and the days of the week really work. However, there's still a weekend, so it would work, but I decided not to go with that one. And I like the skinnier shape of the die cut that I used now. Now I'm trying to adhere the details wood veneer, and the way I assembled the layout, I made sure that I stamped the 8th grade first, because that was what was going to nestle in the details. And I also wanted to layer the details on top of the photos. See, there's the nestling and the connection here again. I think that is most of what's driving my scrapbooking design decisions. It's really hard speaking English when it's not your mother language. Mother tongue, actually, not mother language. I'm cutting off the branding strip, and then I'm going to journal. And since I stamped in blue, I'm not going to add black here. So I'm using a dark blue gel pen. This is a Sarasa pen, if you're interested. And I had actually did not cover the whole paper with gesso, because I had intended to journal right underneath the gesso, but somehow my layout ended up further up on the page, so I still had to journal on gesso. Usually my pens don't work on that, and I try not to journal on it, but this time it worked, and I was holding my breath the whole time I wrote, but it worked out really great. So yay for the pen. I added some embellishments. I added 2 labels, again to ground some die cuts. And even though I picked some in the beginning, I felt like the layout didn't really need any more embellishments. And I could have cut this out, but now I've talked through the gap. What I was doing there, I was looking for the names of the teachers. So since it says details, 8th grade details, I made sure to write the school name. I wrote about the first Lego League challenge that he's in. I wrote down the teammates that he has. And I might actually continue journaling on this layout. There's still room at the bottom, and I think if I just continue straight now and add more, I could add all the 8th grade details that are there, which would be a really fun layout. So I added the classes he had, his schedule, the teachers' names, and the group name, but he's going to do other projects in the spring, so that would be a really fun kind of summarizing layout of 8th grade, actually. So if that is something for you, here is a tip for you. Make a details page and just add on through the school year. So it's not from your perspective, it's facts and still can be fun to look at. And documenting that school year in just one layout. There are some details. And I never mentioned, but I actually added 2 strips of pattern paper that I just ripped at the bottom right and top left corner, because I just felt like the layout could use some more grounding. And I totally love how it turned out. Thank you so much for watching. If you have been meaning to shop in the Shimmerz store, don't forget to mention my name on checkout, Simone, and you will receive a free paint surprise in your package. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.